Okay, we're going to take one of these windows and take it into the door opening and edit it down. So, CP, return, capture the window, return. Look for a common base point. Swap it over to the other side. Then need to rotate that round into the door opening. RO, return. Put a window around the whole thing, return. Base point 180. Now the door frame, the door liner there, the wall liner, probably not going to help us, so I'm going to clear that away just now. And we can also delete everything down here. We're not going to use that. What we've got to do though is try and get all this stuff lined up. Now the glass could be usable, it could become a door leaf. So let's move the glass. Oh, actually, I don't need to move. We want to copy the glass from the bottom corner back to here, and we'll change both of those items onto layer door. We haven't got a door layer available, so we need to create one. So let's create a few door layers actually before we start. So want some new layers. Let's have door frame. I'll put them in lowercase, stay with the rest of the look of it. Door FR. That could be the same color as the window frame. So let's make it 105. Okay, so we're choosing color 105 for the door frame as well. Click OK, and we need a new layer for the door leaf itself. So let's choose a color for that. Let's have a kind of a browny color and give it a layer name. Door leaf. The rest of the layers will be standard, so the reveal is okay on both counts. It doesn't matter if these are current or not, actually. Okay, and if we turn these two objects onto door leaf, I will just turn off the wall reveals just temporarily, so I can change these items onto door frame. Okay, we'll bring back the two layers again. Right, we've got a similar job to do as we did with the window. Now why not be brave and try and do that from this view? It can be done. So we need the front UCS. Let's use set out as the layer to use, and polyline, that's the length that we need to stretch the door frame. The internal window reveal needs stretched by that much, and the window frame is slightly different. Let's do this in two polylines. Polyline down, polyline across. You can then trim one with the other, and that gives you the amount that it needs stretched. Okay, so using the stretch command, you can start adjusting the shape. Probably best to change to a front view, to the plan view now, so we can see how much we've got to do it. I'll just lift this off the deck a bit. Okay, do this carefully. Stretch, capture, return from endpoint to endpoint. That's got things level with the frame and the door. and then we need to bring all this down to the ground. So stretch again, endpoint to endpoint, and delete that. We've then got to adjust the width of the doorway, which would be a polyline from here to here. Move it down, and then you can do your stretch. Delete the line. That should be our door. Okay, now we've got a door here. We've got a double door though. So we need to copy this door to there. We need to change the UCS back to the world coordinate system and rotate the door. I've got some stuff out here on a curb layer. I'm just going to turn that off just temporarily. Side curb can go off. Then rotate. Take that out of the selection. Okay. Then we need to stretch everything there to do the door. But we've got to deal with the door leaf itself. So let's mark the middle of the door with a polyline from the midpoint. And I think if we turn off door frame and the reveals, that should help things. Then a stretch from there to there. Delete the polyline. Then you need to stretch this in again just a couple of millimeters. You need about 4 or 5 mil gap between door leaves. So I'm stretching again. This time I pick a base point but specify a distance. So I'll specify a distance of 2.5 millimeters. Okay, I'll make door leaf the current layer. Add a 3D face at the edge of the door. And then mirror the door leaf using the middle of this yellow line. Okay, you'll see that the let's just stop there. Why does the icon show down there? It's quite disconcerting, isn't it? It's because the world coordinate system is based on these bottom corners. So if I identify ID, there you'll see that the Z coordinate is 0. And it's at the Z coordinate where the OSNAP icons appear. If you want it to be relative to where you're working, you need to change the origin of the UCS. So you type UCS, return O for origin, and the new origin point somewhere up here. Now try the mirror. So MI, return, capture the door. Need a command actually. MI, return. I'm using a window. I'll capture the door. Sounds a bit perverse. But now, if I go for midpoint, you'll see that the icon is where I want it. Set my direction and return. So I've got a small gap between the doors, a bit more realistic. You could embellish that door with more detail, but we'll leave that for later. What we will do though is try and create a window with a bit more pizzazz. Okay, now this layer is available for use. We've got a few layers turned off, which I'll bring back on. Okay, just bring everything back on before I forget. Right, we're going to need a number of copies of this line to create a circular window. Quite reasonably tricky shape. Now, this is a one-off window. these are all generally based on the same kind of window design, but this is a more of a one-off, so it needs to be treated kind of differently. So let's look in the plan view, put things back to the world coordinate system. First thing you probably want to do is just draw the window, basically. So we need a frame. So I want the frame to be 50 millimeters. Okay, and we're going to divide the window. Probably should be on something like WinFrame layer for this. We'll just go to layer 0 just for now. Put all these onto layer 0. Okay, the middle frames will be 50 mil as well. So these will offset out the way by 25. Okay, and I'll re-offset this back the way and turn off layer set out just now. I need to make sure these lines chop through. Okay. The quickest thing to do here is probably to trace. Before I do that, what we'll do is we'll have an inner circle as well. So I'm just going to come in the way by an approximate distance, about that much. And offset by 50 again. Like I said, probably the best thing to do here is actually just to trace over to get polylines. So we just only need to do with the one quadrant. So from there, I need to add intersection onto my O-snaps. And close, CL to close. I need another shape. If you trace, then you know you're going to get a good result. Close again, so I've got a shape there, a shape there. Just need a third one in the middle. Okay, then I can delete. I'll leave the inner one, but I'll delete these two. I'll delete those. This one can become my glass. So let's make layer roof win. Make win glass the current layer, and region this. We've got glass there now. Okay, sheet of glass. Then make win frame your current layer, and extrude these three items by -100. View this in 3D and you'll see what's building up. For shade at the moment, you'll notice the glass and the top of the extrusions are in the same plane. I need to move the glass down by half the height of the object. So it should let me do this. So move the object, return from there to the middle of there. So MID, return. That's it. The glass centered. But I haven't subtracted the shapes from each other. I need to subtract from the big shape, return, take away the two smaller shapes. We should now have a quarter of my window. Now using the mirror command, you can duplicate the other three bits of the mirror, and using the union command, which we haven't used before, we can join them together. So union, and just pick the 4 items that you want to become one. Okay. Now, we started off at the top here, moving downwards. We need to move this object downwards by 100 millimeters. the window reveal. So we're moving it. So mReturn, pick the objects, return. Without specifying a base point, just do 0, 0, minus 100. Return twice. Bring on layer set out and layer 0 zone already. Okay. Now for the window opening itself, we need a reveal. This is probably best done using thickness. We want to use this to create the window reveal, the external skin and the internal skin. So we need a couple of copies of it, probably 3 in fact, because we can use it to help us create a region for the internal face of the wall as well. So if we copy CP, return, pick the edge, we're looking for an easy point to work with. So I think down here is probably easiest. Copy it from there to there, and then we'll copy it down again, but use the height of the window frame. Okay, so that third one is going to be used to help us create the region internally, but these two are going to be used for internal reveal and external reveal. So these aren't extrusions, these are changes. So if you just type in CH, pick the object, we want it to go onto layer, pick the right one would help, wouldn't it? Want it to go onto layer Xed wall reveal, and we need its thickness to be minus 100. Press return. Okay, press escape to stop the grips. Then take this polyline, this one's going on to int wall reveal, and its thickness again minus 100. Okay, we've got our 3D window. All the layers that we need. Okay, we need to position this onto the model. This one is slightly trickier. So do this in a similar fashion. If we get it off the ground, could maybe use the right UCS for this to rotate it. So that's pulled it off the ground. Then change to the world UCS, and we need to rotate it to face away from us. Will do. This is the tricky one, trying to find a point on a 3D object that corresponds to a point on a 2D object. But we'll give it a go. So move. Try and take everything. I'm going to take this vertex, and then we go over to the model and try and find the correct vertex. So take snap off for this. Sorry, take ortho off for this. Should help. There we go. If I zoom in, you should be able to tell when it overlays the external wall region. I think we've got that in place. Okay. If we look on the outside of the building and do a shade, yeah, looks good. Just before we leave this, what you best to probably do is explode these polylines. We've got a polyline there, and we've got a polyline here. Explode these, because when these go through to 3D Studio, it may actually cap them, so it would fill in your window. So X, return, pick that, and return. Watch when I shade it now. You'll actually see it looks slightly different. It's more faceted than it was before. Okay, we're now ready to start working on those internal walls. We can turn off a number of layers now to help with that. So we don't need any door frames or door leaves. We don't need the roof cover or the roof soffit. That's done its job. The roof window information can be turned off completely. Site curb and site road can go. Window frame and window glass and window sill. Should be safe to turn all those off. What else have we got that could go off? Internal wall reveal could go off, yeah. And so could external wall reveal. Better. There we go. Bit simpler. Right, a bit more setting out needed now. Now we need to establish what the height of the wall is inside the building. We know how big it is outside, but the height on the inside really is determined by the slope of the roof. So let's give ourselves a side view. Let's go for the left view. Okay, I'm going to draw a polyline up the corner of the building and make it come through. Oh. Let's start that again. Let's change to layer set out and we'll draw that polyline again. PL, corner window, ortho on, draw it upwards. Do the same for the bottom corner and return. Now draw a polyline from corner to corner. Okay, we'll offset these two lines inwards by the wall thickness. So offset, wall thickness is 300 overall. Pick line, come in, pick again. Pick line, come in, pick again. Return. Use trim. Use this as your cutting edge and chop off the tops of the two newest lines. The originals and this line can then be deleted. The last thing we've got to do to establish the corner heights is to move these inwards by 300 millimeters. So M, return, pick the two lines, return. The distance from here to here is 300 millimeters. There to there. Change your UCS back to the world UCS, and you could really do with a copy of those. So we'll use a mirror, MI, pick the two newest lines, and your mirror point wants to be the middle of this top line. You can see now that we've got these little helpers available there. What we could do is change our UCS to left again and see if we can trim off this one. We can create a gap in there. Draw a polyline from the top of the window. Bring on layer int wall reveal and draw a polyline from the bottom of the window. You should be able to then trim using these two lines and chop out a chunk of that one and delete. You can see now that it meets exactly. You draw it cleanly, it all works very easily. Okay, let's start with one of these internal walls. Put on the front UCS and try and draw a polyline. Endpoint to endpoint, corner, 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 endpoint, endpoint, and then CL to close it. Created that kind of open mouth look. Well, let's try and turn these red rectangles into regions. 4 regions created. Region the main wall, and then we need a new layer. We need an internal wall layer. So int wall, let's get it in lowercase. Let's make it white so it's nice and visible. Okay, make it current. Apply, okay. We should be able to region the main wall as well. We'd already done it. We'd already done that actually. Need to put this onto layer int wall. Let's just shade it, just make sure it is a region, good. And then we can subtract from it. Subtract from the main object, return 1, 2, 3, 4, return. Shade to check. Okay. Change your UCS round to the left UCS. And we can deal with this wall. Once again, polyline, endpoint, to endpoint, to endpoint. Pick up the surrounds of the door. Up, go around the window. And then CL to close the shape. Region that and shade to check. Let's deal with the front elevation. Now this UCS would be the back UCS. It's actually the back of the front wall. This one might be easier to do using rectangles. We've got a rectangle there already. We don't have anything around the door. We need to region these. 1, 2, 3 objects. Just check that it's filled them. Good. Then you can subtract. Subtract, return, pick, pick, return. Check to make sure it's done it. Okay, and the last wall. We need the overall shape. We'll need a polyline for this because it's not rectangular. Firstly, change to the right UCS, then PL return from endpoint to endpoint, intersection, endpoint, CL return. Then we want regions for the red objects. Then subtractions. Just check this. Oh, haven't regioned the overall shape yet. Then I can subtract. That's us done. All the internal walls created. We're getting near to the end of the model now. We've got some floors to put in, perhaps a column or 3. And then we've got the external footpath to deal with its associated curb, and also the roadway. And then the model is ready. Putting floors in is reasonably tricky. You've got to be a bit careful. For us to see what's going on properly, we probably need all the layers on. Now the drawing's getting quite a few layers in it, we need to maybe think of another way of controlling the layers. So you can do that using the keyboard, using -LA. -LA, return, on, return, star, return twice. Very quick. Floors need to deal with doorways. You can't just throw a floor right the way across there. It has to come in to the back of the door, to the threshold. So let's create some flooring layers. Floor, ground. Okay, pick a color for that. and another layer, floor first. Slightly different colour for that will help me work my way around the building. So I'll make foreground the current layer. Apply, OK. Change the UCS back to world, plan, return twice. Now what I've got to do is a fairly careful trace. I'm not sure what level the polyline is going to end up at, but I've just got to deal with the doorways. So PL, return, start here. When I get to this doorway, I need to go into the doorway. To the corner, then this is a doorway. Polylines are great for this because you know they're not changing height. I don't have any other doorways left, so I can just go round the corner of the building. CL to close. Let's see where that polyline ended up. Oh, luckily it's on the ground anyway. I can region that. So REG, pick it, and return. Floors, ceilings, excellent material for regioning. Let's say the first floor came to just beyond this window. So if I change to my first floor layer, I'm going to draw a polyline from here, 300 millimeters in this direction. But then draw my polyline from the ground to that end point. I then need to come over to this side to go perpendicular to the wall, then back to the corner, and then close. Okay, the small line I used as a helper there, go in the bin. I now need to move my floor upwards. So pick the floor, return. If I turn my O snaps off, I could do 0, 0, let's say 3000. Now this floor structure in itself doesn't need to be solid. It needs to have a ceiling, but it doesn't need edges because they're kind of held in by the walls of the building. So really just a copy of this for use as a ceiling. So CP return, then the same method 0, 0, minus 300. We need another couple of layers here. Ceiling, which I'll make white, and floor edge, which will also be white. That's fine. May as well, while I'm here, create a layer for columns. I'll make that a bit more distinctive color. Let's make it that color. Okay. Make ceiling the current layer, which was the wrong choice actually. Pick the ceiling plane, put it onto layer ceiling. Make floor edge your current layer and draw a 3D face on the edge of the floor and return. What we're going to do now is create a column and then move it back into the building. So for columns and anything circular, best to use polygons really, with lots of sides. So let's say it's got 24 sides. Inscribed in a circle is fine. Radius of a circle, let's say 75. We want to move that column 200 in that way, 200 in that way. Change to your column layer, and then we can extrude this from there to the underside of the ceiling. So EXT, pick your column shape, return. All I need to do is go straight up to the corner. have a look in plan. Okay, I could do with another couple of columns further in the building. Maybe one there. You could set these out exactly and then mirror that to give you 2 columns. Use your constrained orbit. You can see we've just set up just some basic stuff in the inside of the building. Let's take a look now at the final stage, which is the landscape around the building. In this model, it's very simple really, because everything's level. Where you get changes in levels, that's when things get more complicated. Now, to create curbs, the best way I've found is to take your arc that you might have drawn in AutoCAD and divide that arc to enable you to facet it. So that's what we're seeing here. The grey line is a faceted version of the red curved curb. So what I'll do is I'll turn off layer set out just for now, and I'm going to use the SSX command to pick these node points. I'll try that again. SSX is the command I use. Pick the object, return. It's telling me it found 42. They're logged in the background. I can now use the erase command, E return, P for previous objects. It pulls the 42 objects from the clipboard. Press return again. They get deleted. Okay, we're going to offset the curb by the 100 millimeters. That's your standard width of the top of a curb in Britain. So offset by 100. And then I'm going to copy that line just roughly to the side. I want to use that line again later on to help me create the path surface itself. I'll turn off layer X wall just for now, and I'm going to draw a small line on layer psi curb across the ends of those 2 polylines. I can fillet those together cleanly. That joins the polylines together, but it's still open at one end. To deal with that, you use pedit, that's PE, return, pick the polyline, then CL to close it. Okay, then the curb can be extruded. EXT, pick the polyline, return, and we want to go down minus 125. We need a new layer now. Let's call it SI path. And we'll give it a fairly browny color there. Make it current. Apply, OK. Put this line onto layer psi path and then move it back into position accurately. You can now turn off your curbs. We'll need to bring back on the external wall layer because we need to trace round the outside of the building. So polyline from the end of the path line, pick up the corners of the building and also go into the doorways. We don't want to leave any holes in doorways, basically because if you wanted to show a door open, you really need to see some kind of surface on the ground. Get back to that position and then close, CL, return. If we region that, oh, I haven't joined it on yet. And I've gone too far with the line. You didn't stop me. I shouldn't have gone all the way around. Should have stopped there at the doorway. I can then join the 2 together. And we've got something we can region. Put back on the curbs and shade it. Okay, it's looking interesting. Okay, we need a ground surface to take up to the doorway. So we'll just region, we'll make the layer psi road current and then region it. Ah, it's too high. What we need to do is move it down by the height of the curb. So move this, return by the height of the curb. Shade that. Still got a problem with the doorway. We're kind of open. So let's create a bit of road surface at the top here. 3D face will do. And then shade it. We've still got a problem here. We need a ramp. Let me show you how you get a curve to go round that shape. We'll need to use the front UCS for this and draw a polyline from that intersection down to this endpoint. So that's the actual slope. What I do now is draw small polylines upwards from each of these and then use this line to trim off the tops of them. As you can see, the slope starts diminishing. Put your UCS back to normal and then mirror those 7 items using the middle of that piece of surface. We've now got to very carefully 3D face this up. You might find it easier to draw a small line out from those 2 positions and turn off layer psi curb. You can see what we're dealing with now. Okay, this is a good opportunity for using a kind of continuous 3D face. Start, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, and then finally 3, 4. Put on the curbs. And you can see that the slope is cleanly up around the curbs. There's a few lines in there that should be deleted, so I can just erase those. Found 8 on that side and 8 little helpers on that side. And that is the building and its tiny little bit of context finished. Thank you.